So you cannot motivate people by money alone, right? So money should be the first thing you motivate them with, right? So you need to pay them enough that pay is not the problem, right? But then if you want to motivate people, you need to motivate them by three things, right? So you need to motivate them by purpose, you need to motivate them by autonomy, and by mastery. So by purpose is let them do something that they really, really like, right? And by autonomy is that give them the space to come up with something, come up with an idea, right? Give them some time, 10%, 20% of their time to come up with an idea and listen to that idea. Creativity. And by mastery is that make sure that they're progressing and they're learning, right? So these are the three main things that will help people motivate after money.
Hello and welcome. Today I'm here with Abdalla. Abdalla is my friend. Abdalla is an author of a book, The Corporate.
Yes.
Also fitness enthusiast,
yes.
Athlete, competitor, and many more, right?
No, thank you.
So, we're not limiting you to this description, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the book, obviously. What is it about and all that. But before, I want you to give a little bit of background and also your fitness background, how you got into sport. Because I met you as a client.
Yes.
I met you as an athlete who was on, let's say, kind of regional level, aspiring local competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how you got into it? Was sport part of your life? What is the story?
Great. So the way I started fitness was like traditional fitness. Like when you just go to the gym. I was a smoker, by the way, right? So I used to smoke. I didn't care about how my health is. I cared about how I looked like, right? So it started in 2019 and just traditional fitness, just going and repping like biceps and bicep curls.
Because people couldn't see your lungs.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
You're smoking
exactly.
too.
And it was, I remember the date because I signed up for a lot of gym membership and I never showed up until that date. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to show up. So it was 21st of June, 2009 when I started going to the gym. Right. And I wouldn't call myself athlete at that time because I would smoke a cigarette and walk in and just do a little bit of work. Never train my legs because I had chronic back pain. And I know
already
since I was
time.
16. Since I was 16, like I could not move my toes at some points. Like it was really, really bad. And it was part of my identity as well. Like I had back pain all the time. Right.
So, do you know how it started? Why it started?
I think I did a wrong movement at a gym. So in one of the days where I just sign up for a gym, go for a couple of days and then stop, I think I was doing the Z-bar bicep curls. And you know how people would like bend all the way to the back, right? And I think I felt something clicking and it was so bad. And at that time I was like in a very traditional low class gym, right? So nobody helped me, right? Nobody told me what to do and what does mobility does to you or coordination or control or core or anything.
Well, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
You hurt your back on a bicep curl.
Exactly. Like exactly. And this is why now when I go to like any gym and I see someone wearing a belt for a bicep curls, I empathize. Like I don't judge them because I've done it. and yeah, so this is how I started going to the gym and just purely for aesthetics, right? And then in 2015, me and my sisters do not live in the same country and did not live in the same country for a long time. So when my little sister, who's not so little now, but my little sister used to come and visit, she was like, "Hey, did you hear anything about CrossFit?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "I started. And I'm visiting for a month. Why don't we both sign up to the same CrossFit gym if you know a place?" I was like, okay. And at that time, I had a couple of friends who did train, and there was like an underground garage. It wasn't a great facility, but it was a great community, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna spend a lot of quality time. That was the purpose: spend quality time with my sister, right? And I got there, and I was surprised with what people could do with their bodies, right? And like what girls, like how much they can lift, what like gymnastic skills. And I couldn't lift an empty bar. I couldn't do a single squat on an empty bar. I couldn't get to the right depth. I couldn't even pick it up from the floor because I'm always scared because of my back, right? And this is where I'm telling you, it became part of me. I was like, I don't lift things. I have to like bend and like squat for it, right? I didn't know how to hinge. I didn't know any of these things. And this is where I started understanding my body a little bit better. And
what country was this at?
This was in Egypt.
This was in Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was there, and I was a smoker, still a smoker. And I realized that I had to quit at some point because I had a bad incident in training, because I used to smoke and go into the box with the same like habit where I used to smoke and go to the gym, but in the box, when you do go for like a run and interval training or whatever, that would hurt much more. I had an incident. Go ahead.
Just one to this smoking. It's crazy that it's just like popping out now that you came right today, because yesterday I was listening to the Huberman's podcast.
Yeah.
And he's the neuroscientist. That's a different level of knowledge there. And he has the full episode on nicotine.
Oh, really?
What it does, how long it stays, but you know how he is doing it, like a actual proper scientist.
Yes,
he's not telling you this is bad for you, this is good for you. He's telling you this is proven benefit, this is confirmed that this effect physiologically happens, and also he's digging into addictions.
Okay.
And also comparing why nicotine is way worse than, for example, caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And like so many little details. Yeah. So definitely recommend that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I quit now. I quit. 2015 was the last cigarette. Oh, not the last cigarette, but I quit the habit.
What was the incident?
The incident was I was not fit at all, and we had to do a 500 meter row test. So, and 500 meters is not a long distance. You can get through it even if you're not fit. Right? But I don't think my body knew what it was like going through, right? So I went for it, and I went really, really fast, because it's a minute 20, minute 30.
Like for 500 meters, if you get 120, that's
and I got 120 solid. Exactly. Okay. So I got 120, and I was unfit. But then for the next 25 minutes, I blacked out, and it's not like I was unconscious. My eyes were open, but I couldn't see anything. And that was a terrifying experience that I had. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't breathe properly.
Like, could you hear?
I am conscious with the people around me, everything around me, but I couldn't see, and I felt like my heart is gonna get ripped out of my body, and I thought I believe that this is death. I've never experienced anything like that before. And actually, seriously, because what happened was, so in Arabs, and especially Arab Muslims, we have like a couple of sentences that you say before you die. And I said it. This is how bad it was. I knew that I was going to die because I was like, there's no coming back from this feeling. It's like, I lost control.
And then you stopped smoking.
And then I stopped smoking. And then I created a plan to stop smoking.
Okay, because when we're talking about addictions and how it's influencing your nervous system, and many addicts can actually stop only after they have extremely intense experience.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that
experience. Yeah, because it kind of swipes who you were. Oh. So you don't really quit smoking. You literally become a new person. Yeah, and that person doesn't do the has no the addictive behavior. So that's why you reminded me
and maybe this is what happened, because at that time, I don't know, I tried, of course, like everyone else, they tried to quit smoking 1,000 times, right? And I smoked at that time for like 12 years. I started smoking. I hope my family don't see this. But I started smoking when I was really like young, when I was 13, I think.
Well, I was just about to ask you because like you are 33?
I'm 32, yeah.
32, sorry, yeah. So you're 32, so I kind of knew the timeline, and it just wasn't fitting.
Yeah, I started smoking very, very early, and I'm glad, because also I saw my friends getting better in CrossFit competitions. I started competing in local competitions, and I couldn't join them because how unfit I am. Like, and I didn't want that. I like the competition part of CrossFit, right? And this is where I stopped smoking, or created a plan to stop smoking, and eventually I did. during that year. And
how you got out of that near-death experience?
I got better after like 25, 30 minutes. I started like seeing things. And I remember I just lay down on the floor, and then people were asking me, "Are you okay?" And of course in Egypt, like they're, "Oh, he's gonna be fine." And I was like, "He's overreacting." I'm like, I can't see anything. But of course I did not react to them. But then it was a moment where I had to make a change. And this is where my journey started in CrossFit.
So you say this was 2015?
I did the first Open in 2015 too. Yeah, and it was like my first. I think at that time there was a 1 rep clean and jerk. As there was A and B, there was and then there was a 1 rep, and I remember I got 60 kilos just muscling through it, and I was pretty happy. So it's good.
That's a great journey, right? Like where you now, you can probably do double of that, right?
More than double.
Yeah, more than double.
Yeah, which is great. Like with proper form, at least.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like you can do more than double and proper form, which is a double win.
Yeah. So I'm happy with the progress, and this is how I started my fitness journey. And I felt, to be honest, I felt like I should have done it way before, especially quitting smoking, getting the right habits. Of course, like I started CrossFit in 2015, but I didn't get to the proper habits, I think, until I moved to Dubai, which was like 2016, where I started like being surrounded by a lot of fit people. I was like, hey, this guy went to the games, this guy went to regionals. These are like, it's like everyone is fit, especially in my community. They're so fit. And I was like, okay, then I'm learning a lot. I'm getting better, and it helps. Like that community really helps you.
Yeah. That was also a little bit shocking for me as well, right? Yeah. Like when you move from a different place and you come to new environment that is very saturated with very fit people around you, like you just start to think like, okay, well, the little bubble I was at just goes, right? And then because for me, like even when I was there, and I would say I was unfit compared to the people I'm around. They're like, oh, why are you training so much? Oh, do you have anything else to do in your life other than training? And it's like, they don't prioritize it, right? So they look at me as the odd one out. But here, I am actually pretty loose, compared to my friends, right? It's like, oh, you're eating pinkberry. Oh, you're eating. I was like, I get you. It's these steps, right? Like people looking up to you, like how fit you are, and you're like, you have no idea.
Have no idea. Absolutely. Yeah. But I like this community a lot. Sometimes it adds a bit of pressure, and you learn it through time, right? You're like, okay, you know your priorities, you know what you're doing, you know your purpose, and it's okay not to be the best in everything. It's okay. It's okay to be normal as long as you.
Compared to very, very few individuals, we can name 2 of them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 3 of them. Tia, Matt, and Rich.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to suck at something, especially regarding such a variety of stimuluses you can go through in the CrossFit. Like you will suck at something.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. That's why on the games you very rarely have people who win every event, or even on every competition, right? Yeah. If you're really not one level above everybody and dominating absolutely everything, you're not going to win every single event. It's
100%.
just
Yeah.
So why you moved to Dubai? How you came to Dubai?
It was my job. So with my job, I used to travel a lot. I used to go on a lot of assignments in like Middle East, Europe, Africa, US, and then they moved me to headquarters. So this was the headquarters for Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. So I just had to move with my job.
Did you travel to Slovakia as well?
I do. I'm going next month.
Really?
I think I went to Slovakia over like 15 times.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you like?
I love it. I love the community there. I love the food. I like the quality of life, actually. I was just telling them that because I was there in July as well.
Are you sure that was Slovakia?
Bratislava. So yeah,
okay.
I like how simple things are, and I like the weather. I like people are nice. People are so chill. So no, and I love the boxes that I go there too. So
where do you go?
Pressburg.
CrossFit Pressburg.
Yes, I think you recommended it to me.
Might be.
Yeah. So I go there. It's a good facility.
I know, I mean, new one, it's not that new, but since we spoke about your travels to Slovakia,
that was
CrossFit Falcon.
Falcon.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I'm
It's like-
going
it's a massive. It's a massive.
do they have
one.
open gym?
I
Because
can
this
check
is the
for it.
thing.
I can
I
check
went
for it.
and tried to explore other places, but the open gym like approach is not very easy to find there.
Mm-hmm.
Like they usually have classes, and sometimes I walk in, it's like, oh, we don't have open gym. So I was like, okay, I'll just go find somewhere else. And I remember sometimes I went to 3 boxes just to find an open gym because Pressburg was closed at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not that common in Slovakia to
Yeah.
have walk-ins. You know, like I
Yeah.
mean, compared to Dubai, where everybody is
Exactly.
a tourist here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like you have so many people
Yeah.
just rotating
Yeah.
through. It's happening
Yeah.
also. But like if it's within Slovakian, you know, like you
Yeah.
already know, like the
Yes.
community is so small.
Yeah.
You know somebody there, so
Yeah.
you just reach out. Hey, come on, can I
Yeah.
come train? You know,
Yes,
you know
exactly.
people, right?
Yeah.
But if it's complete stranger just walking in, that's rare.
Yeah. And they do more classes. I mean, like they're always doing classes. And I feel like, because I don't think CrossFit is as popular there.
It's not
it's
as
getting popular.
known, yeah.
Yeah. For the past, because I started traveling to Slovakia in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And it is getting way more popular now. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much you are banded
No,
within
yeah.
Bratislava,
Yeah.
but if you want, you can go to the gym where my brother is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll give you contact.
Yes.
It's a bit further, maybe 1.5 hour from Bratislava,
okay.
but you can make a trip, and
Yeah,
I will
because
let
I'm
him.
going to be there over weekends as well. Like I'm going to be there for 2 weeks in October.
I will let him know. I will
Okay.
connect you guys.
That would be nice.
Easy.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so and your job is.
So my job right now is an HR leader for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for a tech company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically a corporate job.
100%. Too corporate.
Yeah. All right. So now getting to the
Yes.
corporate.
Yeah.
How come? What was the idea? Where the idea came from? That you
Yeah.
will write a book, and why specifically this book?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I hate writing. So that might not be a good intro to being a bestseller, but I don't like writing at all. I love reading, which is great.
It's a good start.
It is, yeah. It is a good start. And I never wanted to write. The purpose was to help people, but I didn't know in what form. And it started when, because of my job revolves around several things, right? First, it revolves around talents, right? So I hire, promote, develop, assess, restructure, lay off, and like work on mergers and acquisitions, but it's all regarding talents, right? So for the past 12 years, and before that, even what I studied was just working on talents every single day, every hour in my day, right? And I thought everything that I knew was simple and straightforward and everyone else knew. And I was like, okay, so as soon as I started interacting with people, I would help people in my inner circle. And then if they have a challenge, like, oh, why don't you just do 1, 2, 3, 4? And then it works, right? And they're like, like for instance, someone doesn't know how to find a job. And they're like, oh, there are no jobs. I'm like, oh, do 1, 2, 3, 4. They get a job, right? So I feel like I had a little influence on like a good... And
like you had the answers people didn't even know exists.
Yeah. And I was like, I thought all of this is straightforward. And it's not because I'm better than any of those people in any way. It's just because I've been doing it and I have more insights because I am on the other side, right? I work with leaders every day on why do we hire this person instead of that? Why do we promote this person in front of the other person? Why do we lay off this person instead of the other person, right?
So when you said you working, just to clarify it at the beginning, okay? Because again, like what you're talking about, I mean, I know it very distantly, and you know, like I'm great for this because I understand shit. So I will ask the complete basics. When you say you're working with talent, what it means? Like you assessing people and their capabilities.
Exactly. So, all right, let me talk to you about what HR is maybe perceived to be and what it is actually is.
Perfect.
Right?
Let's go.
So, all right. So HR is perceived to be that boring job where you do a lot of filing, employment contracts, labor regulations, and like compliance, right? This is the fundamentals. Yes, you need to have these fundamentals there. But what HR is really about is finding the right people in the right jobs, creating the right environment, creating the right culture, paying people equally, or not equally, but
adequately,
fairly. Yes. Making sure that leaders are treating people properly, making sure that you have a diverse environment. So if you perceive HR as this, and if you are working you're working in an organization that helps you do all of this, you can create an amazing workplace. So this is what you need to know, right? So you need to understand the business priorities really, really well, and you need to understand your people really, really well. And you need to have that balance between business and humanity. And it's because in a lot of situations, you have to choose between whether you want the business to work or you want people to be happy. And if you have that balance, you can achieve both, right? But you need a lot of support from the organization, right? So this is what I do. And this is why I really believe in what I do. Because a lot of people are like, oh, HR is a boring job. I feel there's so much value.
But I think that applies to everything.
Exactly.
Right? Everything.
Yes.
If you really dive into it. Yeah. I've seen now. I'll probably bastardize this quote. It was from Chuck Bennington.
Okay.
He's a gymnastic, and he used to do. I don't know if he's still doing it. He was working for CrossFit Gymnastics, and he said like the newbies always find fun or engagement in variety, but the pros actually find engagement in nuance.
Yes.
Yeah, like the details are going not broader, but deeper into what you actually do.
Yeah.
And if you do that, I mean, with everything, right?
Yeah.
Like there is a coach, and then there is a coach.
Yeah.
And then there is a HR, and a doctor, and a doctor,
100%.
right? So
100%. And this is what like as an example, let's say Paolo is an engineer. Right? He goes...
my father would like that.
Yeah, me too. My father thought that I was in engineering school until third year. I hope he doesn't see this. Really? Third year, I was in business. I wanted to be in business. My mom knew I was in business. He was paying the tuition, paying everything.
And like intentionally, you didn't tell him.
I didn't tell him because my family wanted, because my entire family is engineers and doctors, right? And I wanted to be in business.
Perfect.
So, and then
I bet he's happy now.
He is happy now. I hope so. But no, he actually found out that I'm in engineering, I think in the third year, because he was asking me about my transcript results, right? And I was like, oh, in business, I got A, and economics, I got A, and HR, I got A. And he's like, where are the engineering courses? I was like, oh, crap. I forgot to tell you about this, because he lived in a different country where I lived in, right?
Okay.
So he didn't really get involved.
So it wasn't like a daily covering.
No.
It just somehow happened.
No. And I think my dad's family knew that I was an engineer as well. And then I had to tell him that, hey, I'm working on engineering business management things. I had to make something up, but yeah. But back to our point, like the way I think about it is like, let's say Paolo is an engineer. Mm-hmm. You go to your workplace, right? Let's say that if I'm in a good HR and I'm a good HR leader, of course, need to have influence. So I'm not talking about an entry-level HR. If you're the right HR leader in this country or region, and if I'm able to create, Paolo can come, an environment where Paolo can come in, feels that he's treated fairly, feels that he is matched to the job, he is passionate about what he does, he has progression, and the company cares about his well-being instead of just draining the crap out of him like most companies do. And he feels that he's paid competitively, and he can question the status quo. He can get feedback from his leader. He can get supported by his leader. And these are all the things that I do to help leaders behave like that with Paolo and create the environment for him. What's going to happen? And this is what I think about. What's going to happen? Paolo's going to go back home to his family, right? He's going to have more capacity to help, more capacity to take on more pressure from what you deal with day to day, right?
Yeah.
And then that carries over to the entire society. So if every leader and every HR, every corporate does that, then you can make a better life for everyone, right? But it is not simple. I know that, but it's just because there is more, of course, politics. There is more profitability involved. But yeah, this is where I feel like I can add value. And then, of course, if Paolo goes to the opposite organization where the manager is draining him, treating him unfairly, not paying him enough, overworking, stressing him out. And by the way, I think one of the reasons why I wrote the book is because I lived in that environment, right? Where corporations are so stressful, and my family were so stressed, right? Like when the boss calls, like it creates terror
Anxiety
in the entire
straight away.
Yeah, I was like, oh, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong, right? Now my boss calls me and I'm happy that they're calling. It's like, hey, well, I was playing tennis yesterday with my boss, right? And it's nice. And these are the things that really make a difference. And I feel like if I am able to do that, and that's why in my company I'm able to do that. And this is where I feel like I make a difference.
Well, this is very cool. I didn't even know. Yeah. I mean, the depth of all what you do. Yeah. You reminded me a lot by especially like the whole idea, but especially 2 points you said. Yeah, when people are not scared to challenge the status quo. Yeah, and the leaders are actually putting people first. Yeah. Yeah. On certain circumstances, of course, within certain boundaries. Like you reminded me Simon Sinek, which I believe that you 100% know all his work, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because this is exactly what...
Yeah, he's referenced in the book, of course.
I assumed, exactly that. And he's always saying that comparison to military environment, because he was working with military and leadership there, and corporate environment where military is putting humans first, resources second, and business is opposite, right?
Yeah.
Or many times.
Unless
of course. They have you.
Yeah. Well, no, but I feel like, of course, you need to put people, you understand, people are delivering and executing on your strategy. No one else is doing that, right? So when you put them first, it will help you. But sometimes the problem is that if you're short-sighted and you want short-term results, then you need to make difficult decisions, right? And if, I don't think military is a proper a proper example, or we shouldn't always refer to it, because if the company does not, because most of the companies are public limited companies, right? It's owned by shareholders everywhere, people around you, right? And you want to deliver value for those shareholders. And if the company doesn't do well, it will get bankrupt. It will lose, right? So in military, it's funded by the state or funded by whatever, right? And this is the balance where I'm saying that you need to have that balance between business and humanity, because you need cash flow. You need to take some decisions. Sometimes even if you need to restructure, because you need to survive. If you don't, then everyone else is going to get laid off.
Only making people happy is not the strategy.
Yeah. But it's great. So back to your point, how I wrote the book. I told you, I'm not a writer.
Okay, like you decided that, okay, so you were seeing these examples within your inner circle.
Yes.
Friends coming.
Yes.
And you had all the answers they were seeking for?
I had a lot of answers. Yes. I had a lot of answers. And then what I did was, okay, how do I help more people? Because I have thousands of messages on my LinkedIn, right? I was like, I cannot help every person. It's technically impossible. So I was like, okay, let me write something and maybe I can post it on Instagram. So on one of the weekends, I was like, okay, that day I will just dedicate it to writing. And I didn't like writing, but while I was writing about this, I actually enjoyed writing, right? So you see what happened here is like something that I really hate turned to something that I love, because the purpose is different. It's like, because I felt that I have a better purpose or a clearer vision for what I want to do. So I started writing, and then by the end of the night, I realized that I wrote 5,000 words. I was like, that's going to be a damn long post. No one is going to ever read this post because it's 5,000 words.
Not only who would post it, I think you're limited.
Exactly.
As well.
Yeah. And that's why I never posted anything on that Instagram page. It's probably still empty. But I was like, 5,000 words. No one's going to read about it. But I believe that there's so much good information about it. Like in those 5,000 words. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to think of how I'm going to post it. I'm just going to think of writing everything that I know. And this is how I started writing. I still didn't think that I was going to write a book until actually I published. I didn't think that I want to publish a book. So 3 years later,
wow,
I thought I knew that I'm going to put it somewhere, somehow, but I still didn't think that of course you deal with a lot of insecurities too. It's like, who am I to write a book? I was like, I'm not even an English native speaker, right? And I was like, But then then there's like a process that I went through, and I realized that if I wrote a book, everyone else can write a book, and maybe better books as well. It's just a process.
Yeah, but I think you're being a little bit too humble now, because you got, and I want to get separately to this topic, what it actually means, but you were Amazon bestseller, right?
Yeah, it's like international bestseller, like all around the world.
Yeah, so I don't think you wrote a crap,
But I'll tell you what I did not to write crap. So because as soon as I started writing a lot, I read a lot. I read a lot more. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes if I like a 500-page book, I would read it in 1 week. Right. So if I love it, I will read it. But then as soon as I started writing, I started looking at how and analyzing how people are writing, and then looking at authors. And then I was like, okay, this idea was great, but it could have been written better. Or I was like, oh, you have an amazing idea, but you've been writing 300 pages on the same idea. That you're stretching it too much, right? And then in some areas, I was like, this person is trying to be too complicated. I was like, simplify it, right? And people like to show off their writing skills, and some books are helping me fall asleep. Some books are helping me, and of course, there are amazing books that are really influencing me, just like Simon Sinek, right? And Joko, and like a lot of different people who help me. And so I focus on listening to podcasts while I'm training, for instance. So if I'm doing like my core at the end of the core, and like body maintenance at the end of my workout, or warming up or whatever, I sometimes listen to that, or like getting my steps in every day.
You were doing it also through the COVID, right?
I actually finished it right before COVID.
Oh, right before COVID.
I was editing it during COVID.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I started focusing a lot about these things. And then I was like, okay, if I want to write a nice book or a good book, how should I do that? So I thought about several things. First, be as practical as possible. Because a lot of books are very, very nice in theory, but can I read a paragraph and carry it over to my workplace today? It could be challenged, right? So I wanted to be as practical, because I am a practical person, right?
Well, the whole idea at the beginning of your writing, even if it wasn't the book, was to help people practically, right?
Exactly. So made it practical, but how? And I also didn't want to make it very narrowed from my own perspective, because it's one perspective at the end of the day. Even if I traveled and I worked in so many countries, it's still one perspective, one industry that I worked in, or several industries. So I made sure that I interview those decision makers of the hiring, promoting, developing all around the world, from every industry, from every continent. And I spent a lot of time. So I probably interviewed over 100. And of course, we try to reach out to over maybe 2,000 people, right? And then people, like some of them responded, and I had interviews with them so that I have their quotes and I have their input in every single chapter. So I made sure that it is verified by those leaders in these multinational companies. And then I liked...
So it was like, you want to back up your ideas and words with actual professionals to add validity.
Exactly. Yes. So it's perfect. Because it is social proof, right? It's like if people look at it, and if like one of at the back of the book, like you'd have quotes from vice presidents and presidents from organizations, like, oh, this book would really, really help you, and it's missing. It's not. Especially when people are like studying a lot and like not exposed to this area, I feel like this education is missing, right? So this practical education.
Because you are taught how to do your job.
Exactly.
Not how to get there and how to thrive in the social aspect of it, right?
Yeah, 100%. There are unspoken rules to progress an organization. It's not by doing your job. This is the fundamental. You need to do your job. But then there are so many other things that you need to manage, right? And
I mean, the only time I actually kind of, but very kind of, experienced some corporate was when I was coaching for two gyms, but nobody ever told me what to do regardless of that. I mean, luckily it was all, just like, I didn't really care. So I mean, I cared about people.
Exactly. And this is what's important.
That was my stepping stone for everything else. But I didn't really care if my boss likes me. I didn't really care, where am I going to? Like, I didn't want his spot. I don't want to be a manager.
Exactly.
They tried to do it, and that's why I quit. Right? But like you were never told, you were never taught how to actually use that environment for your benefit, right?
Yeah. And And the other thing that I thought about is that I like books that could be easy to read, right? So I made sure it's practical, but then you know Tarek, right?
Of course.
So Tarek is an artist.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know
he's
that.
doing comic
Exactly.
books, right?
So yes, and I was like, Tarek, why don't you help me by summarizing every chapter into a comic art? So this is what we did, right? So it has like the book, every chapter has pop culture references, but every chapter is summarized, or maybe the main idea of the chapter is summarized in a comic. The book is here. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Yeah. So it's really, really cool. And this is what we like. Like, let's say this is, let me take you to one of the, like, let's say this is leadership, right? Mm-hmm. And it's such a cool comic. So in this,
yeah, I can see
if you
Tarek
see,
in this.
yeah, exactly. If you see the level of details, like the level of details of the art itself, but then if you get the chance to read what is happening, so it's like two different leaders and two different leadership styles, and people who are like just like what Simon Sinek says, right? So it's like eaters eat last, or yeah. So this type of leadership.
How is your family doing private?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So you get to know the people, you empathize, right, and you put yourself with them instead of in front of them, and then the other type of leader where it's command and control. I'm the boss. You guys are. Like,
yeah. So basically, what I'm looking at now is a double page of.
Yeah.
Amazingly detailed black and white comic, where basically on left side you have the, let's say, the right approach,
exactly.
right, where the general of the army is asking the soldiers about how they're doing, what's going on. They appreciate him for that, and therefore they follow him in a battle and they trust him.
Yes.
And on the other side, you have somebody who's just imposing power over there, over his soldiers. Therefore, they are not willing to battle for him as well.
Yeah, and then it's one battle, and who's winning that battle, right? Yeah. So it's really, really cool, right? And every chapter there is...
And the ideas, it was all Tarek?
Like we sit together, and of course Tarek is really good at these things, right? So he loves comics and he loves history. He loves these. So Tarek would be like, "Oh, why don't we just?" I'm like, "Oh wow, Tarek, that's an amazing idea. Oh, thank you."
So he kind of leader himself, right? Because he's a teacher.
Yes,
for kids.
exactly.
So he kind of understands.
And he's like the nicest person, the person who has maybe the most empathy that I've some people like we laugh at it and we call him Jesus sometimes. It's like because he's so nice. Okay. He's such a nice he likes everyone and he understands and empathizes and it's like he's such a nice guy, right? So he helped me with making it engaging and fun, and it breaks a lot of like boundaries of this is a formal book, right? And it helped. I think these are the things that helped becoming that bestseller, right? And one important thing, which links to my fitness life, is chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called Bulletproof Yourself. I'm sure you know what bulletproof came from.
I heard that before. Just so we are clear, Anya, who was here on the podcast, and actually I hope she'll be coming soon again for talking about pain and stuff.
Yeah.
She is CEO, whatever.
Yeah, yes.
Well,
CEO. She's a founder and CEO of Bulletproof. Yes.
Performance, right? So Bulletproof is the theme, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Bulletproof Yourself, I actually was asking her, it's like, that was before we got married, right? Mm-hmm. So I was asking her, I want a name of the chapter because I knew that I need to talk about wellness, and it's chapter 9. It's called Bulletproof Yourself. So we talk about mental health, right? It talks about stress, how to manage stress and anxiety. It talks about nutrition, and it talks about physical exercises and movement, and it talks about and then sleep, right? The
pillars.
Yes, and the reason why I added this as well is because as I was interviewing a lot of leaders, people realized how important this is at a later stage of their life. So they started prioritizing it. And I wanted to send that message. It's like, if you prioritize it at the early stage, you'll have a longer sustainable career, right? And this is what every leader said. Like, if you don't prioritize your health, then you suck at time management, because you can do so much, right? You can do so much in your health, nutrition, by adding little. I'm not talking about becoming like going to the games. I'm talking about having a healthy, sustainable lifestyle.
Now, exactly like you just passing a great pass to me right now. This is what I created now, the body hack code.
Amazing.
Right? So I will do a little promotion.
Yeah.
No, like this is exactly it. You have small practices. It's not 2 hours training a day, but you have small practices. I divided it into 5 pillars.
Okay.
Yeah. Training, sleep, nutrition, cold exposure, and breathing practices. Yeah. And you slowly, progressively build into these habits, but it's not necessarily adding to your day much, right? Because you need to eat regardless.
Exactly.
Just do it the right way.
Exactly.
Yeah. You need to breathe regardless. Add a little bit 10-15 minute practice so you can apply it later on. Yeah. And this is exactly who it also is for, and people who benefit from it the most are people who don't really have time to spend 2 hours in a gym.
Yeah.
But they still want to be extremely efficient in their use of a time.
100%.
And you do that, it's a game changer.
100%.
Just because you, as you said, everybody realizes in their 40s, 50s, right?
Yeah.
In that generation,
yeah.
right?
When you need to intentionally focus on your health.
Yeah.
Because let's say there's person A and B, right? Both of them are equally functionally competent. So their technical experience and technical capabilities is the same, right? But the person A is taking care of the nutrition, sleep, exercise, and all of that. Like that person in 15 years is going to be in a totally different place, right? And the other person might be like working more and might have like shorter wins, quicker wins, yes, but on the long term, they're going to burn out. They're going to, and actually like it's as simple as we have so many people in organization where they stop. Like for instance, they miss a huge presentation or they miss a huge opportunity because of back pain, neck pain, stress. I actually had situations where people calling me telling me that they want to commit suicide. So I had people who actually committed suicide, right, in certain situations. So it is life-changing. Like it's so important, and they're like,
I love how you said that in 15 years. Because that's what matters. Right?
Exactly.
It's like you can jump the ladder super fast at the beginning, but if you fall eventually because you didn't take care of yourself, what's the point?
What is
anyway,
the point?
Right?
Yeah, you want to be healthy. You want to still be lifting. You want to still be functioning when you're 70, when you're 80. We want to be that person, right?
When we talk about this, like, how did you manage all that? Because apparently, from what you're saying, I knew you at the time that you're writing a book. Yeah. You were competing in local competitions, training fairly hard, 5-6 days a week.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes more than necessary.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. And I didn't even know you're writing a book.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like how did you manage all that? Because you had full-time job, almost full-time athletic career, right?
Yeah, I used to train like 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Or like at least the time in the gym would be that, right?
Yeah, and on top of that, you were also still managing to write a book. Like how did you manage?
But that's the thing. Like I feel like people underestimate the time we have. We have so much time on hand. Like let's say, like now that I think about it, well, it's chapter 5 in the book, by the way. It's called It's Time. And it's like how to utilize the time that you have, but it's not like the traditional time management. It's understanding your brain. When does your brain function really well? When can you be creative? What does multitasking or distractions do to you? How to get into the state of flow where you're completely absorbed in a task and it's like your brain superpower. It's like you want to get the best work done. You need to follow a certain tools or follow certain rules, right? And put some boundaries and you're going to get amazing work. So when I was writing the book, I always had the Spotify defocus playlist on and remove every single distraction.
Defocus?
Deep focus.
Oh, deep focus. I was like, okay.
Yeah, deep focus.
Deep focus on Spotify.
And I play it and sometimes my intention is just to write for like 10, 20 minutes and I end up writing for 5 hours because time just flies, right? It helps when it's a task that you like and you're passionate about, of course. But even if you're working on a presentation with work, you need to understand if it's very important and if it's going to move the needle in your organization, you need to remove distractions. People tell me all the time, it's like, oh, we're great at multitasking. Well, your brain doesn't multitask. You need to know that your brain doesn't do that. Unless you're like doing a task that you're not thinking about, like walking or whatever, your brain task switches instead of multitasking, and that affects you. It elevates your cortisol, it reduces your productivity, reduces the quality of work, reduces memory, it reduces your empathy and emotional intelligence because it affects your anterior frontal cortex. So it's like so many things, and people still say, I'm good at multitasking. There is no such thing. You're destroying yourself.
It doesn't even exist.
It does not.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't exist. And this is why I try to put a lot of work on chapter 5, which is all about that. So I can say, like, when you say that, how did you do all of that? I say, how did I not do more? Because of that, right? I could do more. Like what I'm trying to do right now, I have a demanding job. I travel sometimes over 30 days, right? On business trip. Yeah, over 30 days in one go. Like I manage 115 countries. So if every country wakes up and say hello, or one person in one country says hello, then I'm overwhelmed, right? But you can do so much in 20 minutes. You can do, let's say, if we look at 30-minute intervals, I can run a 5K in 30 minutes. That's a good workout. I can meditate for 10 minutes, and that would help me a little bit. I can have a call and presentation in like 30 minutes. I can work on whatever, like 30 minutes intervals. You can do so much work in 30 minutes intervals. And you can also scroll on your Instagram or sit on Netflix for 5 hours, right? So what could have you done in those 5 hours? And when I wrote the book,
it's your, 10 times 30 minutes interval, 10 tasks you can do in this. Yeah.
And when I wrote the book, I didn't think about writing a book. I thought about writing a paragraph. How long would it take you to write a paragraph? Like what, 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? You just need to write several paragraphs every day or every week. I wrote it in 3 years. If I write it now, I know it's going to take me like 3 to 6 months because I know the process
that's
right now.
That's everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you learned so much on the way that...
Yes.
Of course, now it would be way more efficient. I really, really liked what you said there. And I will just throw an idea and you tell me if you agree or not. Yeah, you said that it really helps if you like the task you work on. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. However, what I noticed when I was studying and also later on, when I had some tasks that I didn't particularly enjoyed doing, I was like, it was a little bit of necessary evil to just go through. But you can still, what I always did, I was like, well, I will do an absolute overkill on the task because I might not like the task, but I like doing it very well. Yeah. So I like the fact that I want to do it very well. Yeah. So I don't necessarily need to focus on, this is so boring. Or
the task itself.
Yeah, the task itself. But how you can really make it great.
The discipline
put a little bit of yourself into it.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Yeah, of course. If you love it, if you're passionate about it, it makes it easier. But if you don't, and if you have the discipline and consistency, and this is part of your character to put in 100% in whatever you do, I don't think I am that person though. Okay. I know it now.
But of course, if you can choose to do two things, and one you like and one you don't, I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? We will choose. Yeah. I was thinking about now it's very maybe it's popular on my Instagram because of the pages I follow, right? It's great algorithms working for our greater good. A lot of talk. Joko is big on this, discipline over motivation. Yeah. Like motivation doesn't last. Motivation, if you're waiting, that's Joko's quote, if you're waiting to be motivated, you're leaving it on a chance. Yes. Because you might get motivated, you might not. Yeah. But what I like that, I just had this idea yesterday. I mean, like, because I feel motivated by being disciplined. Exactly. Like, what motivates me, it's keeping the discipline. Yes. It's like, I don't really, feel like training. I was like, I get this so much, and I believe you get that so much because of your, writing, your work. You are top of the top performer at your field. You train, and you get that people think like, oh, well, that's easy for you. It's easy for you to
Exactly.
tell. Like, no.
Yeah.
I have the same doubts. I'm maybe lazier than you are.
Yeah.
The only difference is that at the end of the day, I will do it.
Exactly.
But I still, it's not like I wake up pumped, like, let's fucking do 2 or 3 workouts a day. Like, no, you don't wake up like that.
No, 100%.
But what motivates me is that, like, well, I consider myself a disciplined person.
Exactly.
And that keeps me going.
100%.
Yeah?
I totally agree with that because I also feel the same thing. I completed the book because it was just a discipline of and being consistent and writing 1 paragraph at a time. It's not about writing the book. It's just showing up and removing distractions and putting in the work, right? So this is with me with work, with me with training. It's just show up, put in the work, and then I feel like every time I do it, I get motivated after. Right? Motivation doesn't push me in the beginning.
You create it.
Yeah, but then okay, I'm actually enjoying this now. Yeah,
and that's the same thing what we talked about right before. If you're good at it, you will like it.
Yes.
Even you don't like it at the beginning, but if you put the work in and you see the results, you will start to like it.
100%.
Yeah. Like people don't do what they like. They like what they do. Yeah. Just do it over and over and over. You'll start. That's what Tima is doing with cleaning, and she's obsessed with cleaning. Like, first, what will I do today? She'll just clean. Because she's doing it so much, she started to like it.
Right? I was like, maybe I should start doing that because I'm not very good at it.
No, but that's the thing, right? If you want to be good at it, it's very simple.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yes, exactly.
You don't have to do it a lot. Do it small bits at a time. Just start, like you said, 1 paragraph at a time.
Yeah.
Not 1 book at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to write one paragraph, right? And I feel like this is how I completed it. And it's like I proved it to myself. And this is what happened after I wrote it. Because after I wrote the book, I was just overthinking publishing it. And I was like, is this good? I've never shared it with a single person. So I don't know if it's good or not. I'm like, every time I read it as well, I kind of change things because it's been 3 years writing it, right? So when I reread it, things changed in real life and I want it to be relevant to the year of publishing, right? So I keep changing things and I realize that if I keep changing, I will change forever. I will keep changing forever. And I have to, I would never publish. And then a publisher helped me and told me, gave me a little bit of points. And
At what point you actually had a publisher? Like, because
after I finished it.
Yeah, so you didn't have a deadline.
I never had a deadline. And when I work
that helped, right?
100%. And when I work on something on the side, except like other than work, because work is my priority. If work is demanding, I will put everything on the side for that time, right? Or I will work on it on my personal time only. So that's why I didn't want to give myself a deadline. And there were 3-4 months that I didn't write a single word. And it was because work has been insane, right? So working 12, 13 hours a day is like, okay. And and I still wanted to train. So I prioritized training over writing, right? So.
But that was the one thing that was keeping you
exactly.
sane, right?
It's also because you when you do CrossFit, it's your also social interaction and it helps you stay sane, as you said. So I didn't put a deadline, and then 3 years, and then I was like, okay, should I reach out? So I think because also algorithms helped me when I started researching on Google, like publishers, some of the publishers reach out to me.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, I reached out to so many publishers.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, and then publishers started reaching out to me, and then I didn't know anything about publishing. Like they were like, oh, send us your manuscript. I'm like, what does that mean, right? And then like they kept asking me so many questions that I didn't know, and it created so much stress in my life. I'm like, how am I going to do this? I don't even know if I'm structured properly in my sentences. I don't know if there's any rules in publishing. And then I realized that publishers are like, oh, they're going to take rights. When you work with the publisher, they take your rights. Like if this book becomes, I don't know, whatever. Like, you know, when like Harry Potter becomes a movie or whatever book becomes a course that corporates or organization teach it to employees, they can take the rights, right? And I was like, I don't want that. And my intention was not money. And even like, I don't know if you know that, but I made sure that I don't make money out of it. So it is an international bestseller, but I didn't care about the money. I didn't want to make money out of it. I wanted to make sure that it's really attainable for people to buy.
But you made some money.
I didn't want to make any money out of it.
No, I know you say you didn't want to, but you made some, right? Eventually.
No, no.
No? Till this day?
No. And it was not the purpose. It's through the publishers and distributors and Amazon and all of these people, right? So these are the people who of course they're wholesalers. There's so many middlemen, right? But it also depends on your price. Do you want to price it in a way where you give them money and then you make money? But then do you want to price it in a way, because I'm not talking about the UAE, by the way. UAE, it's attainable for everyone. But I'm talking about countries like, let's say India. Are they going to pay like $20? No, it's more expensive there. So, and I have a very good job. So thank God, right? Yeah. Hopefully it stays that way. So I'm not struggling with money, and I don't have any ambitions to be a billionaire or like whatever, right? I want to be as comfortable as it gets to travel whenever I want to and do whatever I want to. And
you have an impact now.
And I wanted that impact. I wanted people to read it and improve their well-being, their corporate experience, right? If I'm able to do that with one person, and this was and by the way, before I write it, I wrote my motivation. Before I published, I was like, what is my motivation? My motivation, and there was no money in there, right? So I wanted to make sure that follow through. And I always feel if you really believe in what you're doing, money will follow in the future, right? Maybe it's in the next book, maybe it's in the next app or whatever. So, because I am working on several projects now.
Or you'll start to do a public speaking.
Exactly. And I've been doing it. Yeah. And I've been doing it now. So, and I still don't charge people anything because it's not what I want to do.
It's, I have to say it's very noble of you, because you really just from, I haven't read it. Yeah. Full disclaimer. I haven't read it because, I'm not saying I don't need it. I actually believe now you talking about it that I really want to read it.
And I will recommend certain chapters.
Okay.
Because these will be more interesting.
If I will go through it all. That's definitely just understanding people. Yeah. And also now I'm thinking about I might not be in the corporate, so it might not be the greatest for me.
Yeah.
But
you can recommend
everybody who I'm coaching is in the corporate.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So, and this is the thing. And this is when I wrote, in my introduction, I was like, you can read it as an entire book and a story, from chapter 1 to chapter 9, but you can also look at the chapters and just focus on chapters that will help you in your career stage. And think about it. If you read the chapter, even if it does not have an impact on you right now, you might have an advice to someone else because you read it, right?
It's like a manual.
Exactly. Right? It is. And I wanted it to be a manual. So yeah. And I think worked with a publisher. I found a publisher where they gave me the rights and the complete autonomy.
So
and they
helped me.
Rights. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes, exactly. So I found someone who helped me, Passionpreneur Publishing. So they helped me, giving me the right and helping me throughout that process as edit. And oh my God, it took a year. Right. And it took a year because I am also very difficult to work with, because I want it to be perfect. I want it to be exactly what people want. So I think I read it over 150 times. I edited it so many times, proofread it with a lot of people. And then when it was ready, I started sending it to people I trust, sending some chapters. And then I was so nervous, to hear the response. And I send it to people who can be very critical and give me negative feedback, right?
Have you had some harsh feedback that you were like, well, thank you for opinion, but this was very harsh?
No.
Good.
And this is what I was happy about it. And the people who sent it to me, especially sent it to a lot of corporate leaders, right? So those people can smash me with feedback, right? And they don't know me personally.
They don't care, right?
Yeah, they don't care about me. And I'm talking about things that they do, right? So it's you don't know anything about what we do, right? And then those leaders are like, this is amazing. And then they started sending me testimonials, right? About the book. And it's okay, I think it's working out well.
Nice.
So this is when it was a funny story. When I actually published it, it takes a while to send your manuscript to those wholesalers or the publishers, and it takes a while between actually having it on stores on Amazon and all Barnes and Noble and Apple books and everything.
Is it also in the electronic book form?
Yeah. It's on Kindle everywhere, right? Cool. So it takes a couple of days. So one day I was taking a trip. I think I used to live in Marina or JLT at that time. Yeah. So I was taking a trip to Spinneys. I remember that I was at Spinneys. And I was like, okay, let me just check if it's out or not. And I went on Amazon and I look at it and it has like a logo or like an icon on it, number 1. And next book was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Next book was Simon Sinek. Next book was all of these like amazing authors. I'm like, and then I thought it's number 1 maybe today. Like it was published today. So I took a screenshot and I sent it to my publisher. I sent it to my marketing strategist. And I was like, oh, what is this? I was like, oh, it's out. And then what is this? He was like, and then he started calling me. He's like, you're your number 1 bestseller from the first day of publishing. I was like, how did this even happen? I didn't even start my marketing campaign. I didn't do anything. And I was like, holy shit.
That's so cool.
This is serious. And I was like, I never thought anything like this will happen to me, especially writing a freaking book where I hate writing, right? It's like, and that was a life-changing moment because
in the Spinneys.
In Spinneys, yeah. And then I realized that you can actually do so much if you just put in the work, right? And so much that you never thought that you're going to do before in a field that you never tried or never studied or nothing. It's like, I feel like it was like a miracle. Like it's not like, like it's not something that I did. It was
but you know, like you took the harvest at the end.
Yeah.
But that it was a long journey there, right?
It was.
It's just the fact that you were not thinking about that moment, or you were not like how this moment of being published will feel like, look like, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't in your head.
No.
But you did so much work, 3 years of writing. Like, you know, you could have just being lying on the beach all the time.
Exactly. And I did lie on the beach sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, the time you spend actually writing, right?
Yeah, and most people wouldn't know that I was writing because I was out there.
Well,
I was going out.
I was with you almost daily.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Training, whatever.
Yeah.
And I had no
idea. And I was chilling. Like, it's not like, oh, I have a deadline. I need to write. I need to run and write. No. I was like, it will happen. And I know when it will happen. The thing is about me is like, I know when I'm enjoying my time and I'm off track, and I'm okay with it, but I'm aware of it, right? And I am aware that, hey, this is temporary. I'm going to get back on track and just take it easy. And it came by time, right? So there's
you reminded me, again, like a CrossFit reference, right? Like when you said, like, you see your book, number 1 bestseller, and the other authors are whatever, you know, Simon Sinek, Dale Carnegie, or, you know, like, and there's your name there. It reminded me what Matt Fraser, when he got to the games, he was like, I was standing there in the starting line of the first heat, and all the other 9 guys were guys I was watching on YouTube previous year.
Wow.
Like just surreal moment, but well deserved, right?
Thank you. But I also, Tia Toomey, when she was close to, I think, when she won the first games, and she was saying that I think she was head to head with Catherine, right? And she wasn't as confident and dominant as she is now, right? And she was like, oh, I'm next to Catherine. It's like, how am I doing this? And I was like, wow, yeah. But then she became dominant in the next few years. But I feel like that this is what gave me a lot of confidence, and then it helped me a lot. Like this receiving feedback from people, or like looking at most of the rating on Amazon is like 5-star, and it's like, oh, people are telling their stories about it. And this was unreal to me, and until this moment, it's unreal. And
do you know how many copies did you sell roughly?
I don't know, but thousands. Like, I don't know, like it's
nice.
Yeah, but yeah, which was great. Like there are like in some events, I sold that like one event. Sometimes I sell 1,000 books, and I don't sell it. Let's say that I went on a speaking event. I just tell them, print it. I won't make money. Just go ahead and print it, and that's it. Really, like because I feel the reason why it went so well is because I didn't care. I didn't care about the monetary reward. It's not that mattered. And maybe in the next book I will care a little bit more, and then the next. But
do you have something, some outline what you would like to do maybe for the next book?
I'm working on something else, which is something bigger. I've been working on it for 3 years now as well. I feel like 3 years is the number. I really want to have an app, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so a social app. And a social app that is there to help people instead of having people pretending or showing off or whatever, right? So it's a community, it's a global community where people help each other in the corporate environment. So it's mainly in the corporate world. And I have it already. It's actually ready. It's on my phone, but it's
oh, wow, cool.
we're just editing a few things. So hopefully in 4 months.
So it's the same idea. You just have a live feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah?
And I feel like it's the platform that's going to be different. Mm-hmm. This is a book, but I feel like now you need an instant answer. Like sometimes you're in that situation. Like let's say that person who committed suicide so someone was laid off a few years ago in the oil crisis and that person committed suicide. If that person had instant feedback, where instant support with a community where he's or she is talking about what they're going through right now, they could have had help, right? And the problem is now it's so difficult to do that on the current apps because some people will judge you, some people will retaliate, some companies will never hire you in the future, right? So that app has that secret of this algorithm where things could work out really, really well, and it's fun, and yeah, it's just a community where people help each other without getting any reward. Right. So it's like if you want to help people who might be going through some challenges and you might have answers, you just go on that app and that's it. So it's so this is what I'm working on right now, and I'm working on something else as well.
I believe it will really work because you say people help because they want to help.
Yeah.
So there are no paid professionals on the other side who
exactly.
Right? Because you lead by that example, it's not about the money. It's about the experience, and it's about actually improving the experience within your work life.
Exactly.
So
and to be honest, also, I think it's also it's still a bit selfish. I don't know if you watch Friends, because I love Friends. But
you can try the reference. I think I'll make it.
Yeah, when Phoebe was doing selfless acts, and then she realized that, and then. I don't remember if it was Joey or Ross who was telling her that every act is selfish. Even when you help someone and that person feels so happy, you feel happy. Yeah. So you're doing it because it makes you feel good.
Chandler, because he's cynical.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of Friends references. Yeah, there that. So that's the thing. When I did that, or when you do that, and I think also Simon Sinek talked about
oxytocin.
Oxytocin, of course. When you just help someone else, it just produces oxytocin, right?
Yeah. And even witnessing. Even witnessing when somebody helps somebody else. So it's not only you get oxytocin, person who got helped get oxytocin, and
people around them
get oxytocin,
100%.
And it's literally a chain reaction. You see this kind of act, you want to help as well.
Exactly.
Why? Because it feels good.
Yes.
Because you got that oxytocin there, right?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. And that's the thing also with the opposite, right? So I've been in boardrooms where a leader was cursing and swearing at his board, and then as soon as that leader left, the next in line was leading that meeting in the same exact way. Because it created an environment of that and the culture of where people disrespect each other.
I got fucked now.
Exactly.
You get fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
And then people come home.
Yeah. And it's so
went out on their families.
Oh my God. Yeah. And this is the scary part for me, because you go home and you have no capacity to take on or to love and to give your family, and it's really, really bad. And I've seen it in so many households, and it really affects your everything. It affects your life, your children, and I feel like this is, if I can do or improve 1% of everyone's life, I was then I will do it. And that's why when I go back to HR, when people talk to me, it's oh, I'm not getting paid. And then usually what a normal HR or someone would say is oh no, but you're getting paid enough. And you don't look into details. So I'm you know what? Why don't you actually look at the market, look at the person's performance, look at his behavior or her behavior and potential to take other roles. And if it makes sense, let's help that person. Mm-hmm. And actually what I did in the past where people and I do that every year, right? I look at my entire organization and I see, without them asking, right? And I look at all of their pay and I compare it to the market. So we have like agencies and consultants who tell us how people are getting paid in this role with these job responsibility in this industry. So you try to compare it an apple to an apple. And then if I look at the
Apple,
highest
not company, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just to make it clear.
Yeah. And then when I compare it and I realize that there might be a pay gap, I go and try to make a huge business case to the leader, or there's, of course, so you need to get in the general manager, the VP, or the CFO, and all of them involved. And I tell them that, hey, we don't have to wait for people to start resigning to do something, right? And I hate to be that person. I hate to be that company. I want to be proactive. And we do that, and we do these pay reviews. And because, to be honest, like for the past 5 years, because I work in Lenovo, and it's because they're really, really nice and they care about people, they approve these things, right? And then we go into closed rooms and I call people into HR's room and with their leaders. Usually they think that it's bad news or like they want to be but it's like, and then I tell them, hey, we value you and you've been doing a great job and you get an increase without them asking. And they're like, some of them tear up. They're like, this changes everything. This can get my kids in better schools. This can help me afford things better, especially with inflation. And I feel like this is the value that you can have as either a leader or an HR person or a general manager. You don't have to say no first. Like
and you do it preventively, right? Like
yes,
it's a prevention
exactly.
of later on disasters.
Oh, exactly.
You're not just putting out fires
exactly.
that are already there.
And it's not like it's not going to impact their bottom line. It will impact their bottom line. These people are going to work harder. These people are going to meet your customers. These people are going to innovate new products, right? And it will make you a better company. And that's why we're number one in the world. It's because we do these things before everyone else does it, right?
Nice.
So, and this is what I think these are the things that people need to think about is like, be good to people, especially at work. It will make a huge difference. And I feel like a lot of companies are getting better, to be honest.
This was my question, like without being too humble now, okay? Honest answer. Yeah. How rare is this approach that you're doing?
I think in the largest companies in the world, it's not that rare because they know it.
Okay.
They discovered it.
The best
way
of the best.
Fast. Yes.
Are best because
when you talk about the best, and when I talk about best of the best, I'm talking about tech. Tech industry, let's say Apple, Microsoft, Google, Lenovo, like the best in their each field. They do that, and they do that really, really well. And they make sure that people are as engaged as possible, as motivated, and retain them. Because at the end of the day, like that person leaves. The cost of people leaving is huge, but people don't put a dollar value at it. If you can visualize the dollar value of it, you will think twice. Like when I worked in oil and gas, right? And the cost before.
Okay.
And the cost of removing one person from the first year and a half to 2 years with the training and everything that they've taken and the travel, it costs more than $150,000 to replace that person.
In what kind of pay grade of that person? Entry
level. So imagine how much, because they go through a lot of training. You sometimes use a lot of agencies. Agencies take a lot of money to recruit as well. And then of course, and we're not considering the cost of screw ups, right? They can screw up with a customer and that costs you millions, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Also, this is completely different level than what you're talking about, but we had a similar case. If you remember, I came with 3 other coaches to Dubai to open the second branch of Goldbox, right? At the Bay Square. Yeah. One of them left within 2 months or 3 months. It wasn't that huge of a cost. However, for a company with what was that? Like we had
a certain capital. Yeah, exactly.
15 employees.
Yeah.
15 employees.
Huge.
Yeah. She was leaving. That was cost of the ticket, cost of the hotel, cost of visa, and all that processing, everything that went into it. And there's like, nah, goodbye. It's
crazy.
Yeah, that's why they stopped it. And that's why we couldn't hire from outside anymore because we don't do this anymore. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. 100%. And this is, and people just don't think about it. And sometimes, and I think this is one of the main issues in an organization is that when people put their ego first, right? When they don't think about, and this is chapter 7, corporate politics. So when people don't think about the value or the vision of the organization and they put their ego in front of everything. And I feel like, and sometimes we just need to stop. It's like, hey, am I serving the organization and serving the people, or am I serving myself today? Right? Or in this act? Because sometimes I see a lot of arguments and it could just be solved by that. Just stopping all parties and think of are we helping the organization, or are we helping ourselves, or are we helping our roles today? Right? And I feel most of the time it's we're working on our ego, or working because of our ego instead of because of the long-term success of the organization and the well-being of the people.
Well, when we just go back to like the line of your work, what you do and what you did with the book, and the impact that you bringing with the book, it's like you're not really helping people only on the professional level, right? Yeah. Because as it was hinted before, as you said, like when they come home, they come to a completely different environment because their headspace is different.
Exactly.
If they're happy at work, they're happier or potentially happier at home.
Exactly.
And it just all rules together. So basically, as you said, like if I will just help people with 1%, I mean, if you help them, if that 1% of their life is the critical one, like the domino effect, like if you remove just one piece, it won't work. If you put that one piece on the right space, like you actually, or as you said, you can influence their kids to have better education.
Exactly.
Right. And that's
another generation.
That's another generation. That's a completely different picture of the actual impact. So it's not like, well, I had to fire somebody and they were crying here. Like, no, like it's their whole life.
100%.
And it's whole life of the family and
100%.
So
because
much.
I was in that house where it was stressful. Like I lived in that house where work was stressful, and I before Lenovo I worked in other companies where it was also stressful. Right, I've seen my parents that's right, my uncles, they all worked in a very stressful environment, and
all
we saw that.
And engineers,
not necessarily, but it was that corporate experience that was so tough, and I'm like, there must be something better. There must be like something that could be done differently. And when I talk about my impact in HR, this is very minimal, but if you think about it, and if you can help every leader out there, that will have way bigger impact than anyone else, because at the end of the day, your boss makes a lot of difference in your life, whether it's a good boss or a bad boss, right? And if that boss fights for you, supports you, acknowledges you, rewards you, and all of that, your life is going to be different. Even if you're working in the shittiest company in the world, and if your boss is doing all of this to you, then this is way by far better than working in the best company in the world where the boss makes your life a living hell.
But then on the long run, as also you said, like these companies are not going to be shitty if they have these good leaders, right? Because over time, maybe not from a year to year, but on the long run, you will create completely different culture. You will create completely different environment.
Exactly.
When you have all these all these leaders and who you were speaking with, you made so much connections, right?
Yeah.
How much do you think that your role, specifically because you are in Lenovo, influenced you actually realizing all of these truths and all of these impacts? Because you said you had very bad experience in a corporate world, in the companies before. And
it's a very good point. Because
would you write it down, or would you think about it this way if you wouldn't have that positive experience from Lenovo?
Probably I wouldn't have written the book, because I always knew what is right? Even when I was in difficult situations and organization, I knew what was right. And it's something that I was passionate about, something that I studied, something I read about a lot. But when I've been on the brighter side, I'm like, wow, people should see. It's like, it can be done. Yes, right? It can be done, and it's being done really, really well. And people should not ask for anything less than that, because companies are making a lot of money out of you, right? Even if you're getting paid a lot. Like, I always feel like,
well, people who are getting paid a lot are getting paid a lot because they bring a lot of value.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Whether it's tangible and value or intangible value, it's huge. And people should ask for these things. And it's just so difficult to change leaders who've been brought up and raised and dealt with in a certain way and learn things in a certain way, especially those who are like executives right now or like in their 50s, 60s. And it's so difficult to change it. And I think this is the hardest thing, because if you don't get their buy-in, if you don't get the highest leaders buy-in into that culture, no matter what you do, you're just going to make little wins here and there, but the entire culture is not going to be built on that, because the culture is what? It's shared beliefs and values, right? At the end of the day, and they need to see it every single day. And if one day they see one thing and the other day they see another thing, then you don't have a culture.
What would you say, or is there a point in time or in a history of corporations and this culture that when we can point out that this approach, this mindset, turn it to the wrong one, like that.
Turned it to the wrong way.
Yeah, like the one that you can see, you can point out like, okay, well, because of thinking this way at this point of the time, because of this whatever socio-economic factors, that's why people really value money over people in companies. Like, can we point that out?
No, I feel like it's always been that way. Okay. I feel like the command and control hierarchical culture this is what was like prominent before, or like was dominant before. So right. So I feel like the change happened when people started giving autonomy and space and caring about people. And the reason why is that I think it's technology. It's innovation, right? If you want someone to innovate, you cannot command and control them. You cannot tell them, you need to innovate today, right? You cannot tell them, or like you cannot pressure them, right? Because it's about emotions, right? So negative emotions make you narrowed, right? You cannot say that it's also part of motivation, right? So you cannot motivate people by money alone, right? So money should be the first thing you motivate them with, right? So you need to pay them enough that pay is not the problem, right? But then if you want to motivate people, you need to motivate them by three things, right? So you need to motivate them by purpose, you need to motivate them by autonomy, and by mastery. So by purpose is let them do something that they really, really like, right? And by autonomy is that give them the space to come up with something, come up with an idea, right? Give them some time, 10%, 20% of their time to come up with an idea and listen to that idea. Creativity. And by mastery is that make sure that they're progressing and they're learning, right? So these are the three main things that will help people motivate after money. But you cannot motivate me by autonomy when you're not paying me at all.
That's the baseline, right?
Exactly.
Like, if you're not, because
it's like Maslow's physiological need, physiological needs.
You need to feel valued through that money.
Exactly.
Otherwise, the motivation is not there whatsoever.
Exactly. Right? So I feel like this is the thing, because as we went through that technological era, right? We needed to innovate every single day. And then I think companies realized that we cannot work that way. We have to give people the right space. And this is how Google Map came up, right? So they gave people 20% of their time, 20% autonomous time, where people or Google employees would work on their idea, right? And then they would assess it in every quarter or in a certain timeline. And then people realize that they're having remarkable ideas. It's just been not listened to. And this is what I tell every candidate that I interview at Lenovo. We're not going to tell you what to do every single day. You're going to know your objectives. You're going to know your KPIs, but you're going to have to tell us how we can do like our job better, right? We need to, and we also need to have that maturity to respect when maybe an entry level will come up and challenge a VP and tell you, oh, why not do it that way? Because it might be right. Mm-hmm. But so you need to develop that maturity to leaders, and you need to make sure that this person comes in and understand that their voice is valued. And if you don't do that, people are going to be scared. People will not have there's something called psychological safety, right? So you want to have your team to have that psychological safety where they know that when they speak up, they're not retaliated against or not shut down on all
or humiliated
exactly
for bringing some different idea, right?
Yeah, the first day I went and worked there, I didn't know a lot about the company, right? And I was there a bit early. I was supposed to start later, but then they had an executive meetings and all the executives were there in the office, and I was there. And they were talking about strategical things, and it was my first day, and they're like turning around, I was like, "What do you think?" I was like, "Really?" And then I said what I thought, and everyone took it into consideration, and they applied it, right? And it's like, first day, I was experienced by then, but now what I do, even if it's an intern, I was like, what do you think? And whenever they work on a presentation or like when they finish their internship, I was like, what did you think? What was your input? What do you think we should do differently? And we change it. And because every person has an opinion, and if you hire the right person who, they tell you what they think or what the problem is, also have the solution. Because you can always spot problems. Every company has problems, right?
Oh, hey, you have no idea how, I hated this when coaches, like this, we need to fix this. It's like, hey, don't come only with problems. Yeah. Come on, think for yourself, 100%. Right? This is what you also reminded me. I heard this from, as you said, like you giving them autonomy to come with their own stuff and their own way of bringing solutions, right? Or ideas. Steve Jobs was always saying, I think it was him, that, well, I don't pay my engineers so I tell them what to do. I pay them so they tell me what is the best to do. Exactly. Right?
100%.
It's opposite way. Why would you hire them, right? Yeah. Because you want their ideas.
Exactly. Because I tell every candidate, I was like, if I'm going to tell you what to do every single day and how to do it, I might as well hire anyone. Right? There is no difference in hiring you or hiring someone else, right? Or maybe hiring a monkey. Right? That's going to be the same.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Or
a
automated system robot.
Yeah. So I think this is where things started to shift. And that's why it is so important. Like, for instance, and this is part of motivation, you can actually motivate someone by money if they're doing a mechanical job. Like something where, like, let's say that a person sitting on a factory production line and they're just taking something from point A to point B. No creativity, no cognitive skills at all. You can't maybe tell them, do 20 instead of 10, they will do it. They'll go faster. But if you want to tell them that, hey, we want a product launch and we want to improve on our product or innovation or come up with something new. And I'm not talking about even innovation. Maybe it's innovation in the process. Maybe instead of doing something this way, it could be very, very simple. And innovation doesn't have to be like, you need to come up with a new, electric car, right?
Yeah.
You can just innovate a process, innovate something little in your work, right? My first job, actually, and this is why I only stayed there for 3 months, and I worked in a bank. So I think,
Was this in Egypt?
Yes, I think it was the first job that I had. Mm-hmm. And my boss, I look at my boss and I was like, I don't want to be like that. And because I see the way they work is just so systematic, right? And my boss gave me a task. And they're like, we have 5,000 employees and we have so many branches in this bank. We want to make sure that they get the bonus and whatever. And you need to work on this sheet, this way, do this, click that. And it will take me a week to do it that way. So I went and Googled something on I'm sure the Excel sheet is smarter than this, right? So,
okay.
So I Googled it and 30 minutes later, I came to him. I was like, I've done it. She's like, it's impossible. It was all the arrogance in the world, right? And I was like,
so you did a weak task in 30 minutes?
Because if you're good at
because there was an algorithm for that.
Yeah, a formula. Just get a formula. Everything's gonna read from each other and it will be done, right? You have you have their IDs as a key cell and all that. And then he's like, and this is when I knew that I have to resign. He's like, it's impossible. I'm like, well, do you want to double check it? And he's like, and I was doing it with all respect in the world. Like I was never in my experience, I was never that. Even if I'm right, I will always try to make sure that I will save face, even if the person is wrong. And yeah, so he tried checking. So he opened a few sheets and then he checked it manually. And like you do random sampling when you try to audit something, and then it all worked out. And he's like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "Oh," and I was like, "I'm excited. I want to tell you what I did." And then I told him, "Oh, this and this, you put this formula and it works out and populates all of these things." And then he's like, "Why didn't you not do it in my way?" I was like, "I've been doing this job for 9 years," and he's a supervisor. I've been doing this job for 9 years and I'm no better. And he's like, "You might have done something wrong here." I was like, but check it. Like there is nothing wrong. And then he's like, no, I am the manager or like the supervisor or whatever, and you should have done it in my way. So I actually was penalized because I made work faster, right? Fuck, and I was like,
this is crazy.
I know that I'm gonna have to get out of there. And in my head, I was like, you are the supervisor, because it was not a great position. I was like, you probably are the supervisor and nothing better because you've been doing it the same way since
9 years.
Yeah, since 9. Yeah.
But listen, like, I mean, this is going into technicality of it, right? But like, you're supposed to do something manually.
Yeah.
Logging some data manually, and you, because you were smart and you were like, well, there has to be a better way.
I don't think I was smart. I was just common sense.
Okay, yeah. And you know, you were just thinking for yourself, like, why would I spend a week logging it, right?
Yeah.
So then you create an automated system where all the calculations are done by the system.
Yes.
So there's way less chance for an error.
Exactly.
Because the chart does it for you, right?
Yeah.
So like, what the fuck? Anyway, this reminded me also, as I said, like you did it because you wanted to make it faster, right?
Exactly.
You didn't want to spend a week for doing it.
This
is another thing that I heard from these tech leaders. Like, I always want to hire the laziest people because they do it the fastest.
Yeah, exactly.
They will find a way how to do it the most efficient and least energy expenditure way, right?
Yeah, that's
very
true.
cool.
And and it was like, okay, I know that I'm not gonna stay in this company for a long time. I actually resigned after, because the notice period, the probation was 3 months, and after that you need to give 2 months notice if you're gonna resign. So I resigned 1 month before my end of probation so that I can get out without any notice.
Yeah.
And this is where I left, and then found a better company. Thank God. So these I feel like these bosses are all there now. They're still there until now. They're insecure. They don't want you to take their position. Sometimes they would keep you in the shadow for as long as possible, right? So that.
But like, imagine this was just one example of this guy, this supervisor or whatever it was, being extremely inefficient.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if you apply your thinking to many other processes in there, you need maybe half of people.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
Because you don't need to do all the manual grinding.
And I feel like this is very common in local companies, or like in companies that did not understand how valuable it is to hire someone who might be a bit more expensive, rather than just having like 10, 15 incompetent. Maybe one person can do that job, right?
Yeah.
And I see it here a lot, where you see a lot of hierarchies, a lot of titles. I'm like, what are all of these people are doing? How much is your business generating? Why do you need all of these people, right?
I can tell you just a very basic example. Okay, I've seen when we were equipping the gold box, I've seen a couple of the lowest grade workers just bringing some fridge. Just 5 of them, and they couldn't put it into the place.
Exactly.
It was 5 of them.
Oh my God.
I did it myself. I mean, okay, I was probably a little bit stronger on average than them.
Yeah, but they're 5.
Yeah, exactly. and they still were not able to do it properly, right? And then you just like.
And and I totally agree with you. I deal with that a lot, and but it is what it is. Like, I think those companies eventually will collapse.
You started real revolution now.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And this is like, hopefully this is what the app is gonna be solving, right? you have a question, you have a problem, you have a challenge with either finding a job or dealing with a difficult team member or dealing with a difficult boss or whatever. There's so much politics or whatever you have in the corporate world, and someone will, because someone might have gone through the same thing in, I don't know, Singapore or in Canada, and he would be like, oh, just in 1 second, and tell you, why didn't you do this, right? And to be honest, like, this is all one thing, and racism and discrimination and preferential treatment, this is a totally different story, because I feel like this is the most sensitive part of corporates that people are not able to talk about, because it's very, very sensitive. It's very taboo. It could be like, there could be backlashes if you talk about these things. And I feel like those are the things where you need the most support, actually. But people are not very open talking about them because it is taboo.
You know this, as you said, like people solving problems from all around the world, because there are the same problems everywhere, right? Yes. There's this old expression, like you can read or research, now internet, right? Mm-hmm. You can research any problem you have. I mean, like, I find it super easy whenever I'm talking with someone, it's like, oh, what do you think is this? And I was like, I don't know. I will Google it straight away. You just shoot it there. 90% of the time, within first 5 links, if you use the right keywords, obviously, right? You will find the answer. Because the old expression is, in the whole history, it's very unlikely that you have a problem that haven't been there before. It's very unlikely that you are dealing with such a specific problem that nobody ever had before.
I've never dealt with it,
there is definitely some kind of record or some kind of solution already there.
And if it's a new problem, and even if it's a new problem, you just need to understand other people's opinion and then make your own. And this is what I always tell people, is like, yes, if you want to Google, if you want to ask me, even when you read the book, understand it, get the tools of it, but then you have to tailor it to your culture, to your environment, to your situation, to the way you're living, right? Because I might talk to you, and I always mention it in the book, like, in these areas, maybe this culture might have the readiness to perform these tasks, right? Mm-hmm. But in other cultures, you need to be very, very careful, and other organizations. So you need to make your own mind into how you're going to be performing or what you're going to be deciding based on other people's opinion. You need to listen, understand, but then whatever action you're going to take is on you.
Yeah, this is exactly the difference between working with rules versus principles.
Yes.
Because rules you just follow, right? But principle you take and you apply it to whatever your situation is. Yeah. And that's what exactly you're saying. Like, just apply it to what you need to apply it to. Don't be like just so rigid, like, well, this doesn't, relate to, like,
exactly.
No, it does.
And I think the best example of that in the book is about leadership styles, right? You can have that autonomous, empowering leadership style, and like, oh, you're so empathetic, you let people do what they think is right, in a certain culture or a certain environment. But if you apply that in a different environment, this could ruin the work, but it could actually lead to blowouts and deaths. And this is what I felt in tech. Yes, you want people to be productive and all of that, and create and innovate. So you give them the space and autonomy and empowerment, all of these things, right? But in, let's say, an environment where I was working in an oil rig, where you actually could kill everyone on the rig if you start being creative. Seriously, like, I'm not following the checklist, so I will not do 1, 2, 3, 4, and they will lead in a kick or blowout, and then
pilot probably can't be as creative.
Exactly.
As well,
So you need to be very, very careful where to apply it, and if your culture and environment have the readiness to absorb it. So it could be one step at a time, but you need to think about it.
Do you have, maybe not necessarily from the book, but probably I believe there's part of that there as well, some tips where to go? I mean, you're probably not going to teach it in the next 10 minutes here, but how to read and understand people, some resources, because that's what you do, right? Like you said, like the human skill is so important because you are assessing people, you are always you said assessing talents
Yes.
of people, right?
Yeah.
So what are your, except of ages of experience, what would be the resources to go for?
I think you need to read a lot about emotional intelligence. So I love emotional intelligence. And when I said that I love reading, I think I read pretty much most of the books that are out there about emotional intelligence. And I actually wrote about it in the book. Because basically, emotional intelligence is about two things: self-competency and social competencies. There are two aspects of it, self and social. And self is self-awareness, right? And self-management. So self-awareness, understanding yourself, and then self-management is like first emotional intelligence. What is it? Is first understanding what you feel and building strategies to understand and effectively control it, and then understand what you do and how that affects everyone around you, right? So that is emotional intelligence. But then there are two parts: self and social. And self is, as I mentioned, self-awareness, and then self-management, and social is social management and something else. Well, it's in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, and these are the things that are so important, because what happened is that people were talking about IQ a lot, right? So how smart you are, but then what they realize is that, and of course with a lot of research, is that it's not about how smart you are, because at a certain point you just need to be smart enough, right? And then after that, it might be actually a problem, right? So you just need to be smart enough. But what really, really makes a difference is your EQ, which is your emotional intelligence, right? And this is how you deal with people. This is how you influence others. This is how you empathize. This is how you understand yourself and how you behave, how to understand...
Not only others, but yourself.
Yourself.
First, right?
You need to understand yourself first, and then understand how you affect others, right? And then managing yourself too, right? And understanding what kind of emotions do you leave others with when you're with them, right? Do you drain them? Do you empower them? Do you energize them? You need to understand all of these things, right? You need to understand these cues, and when people, because sometimes I feel, okay, this is what I really feel, is I feel like I'm good with this, emotional intelligence. When people are upset, or people have something is wrong, or someone is could be a cultural fit or a motivational fit, or when reading, and I've been reading about it since I was a kid, especially body language and all of these things. And I am certified from probably one of the largest institutes in the world to analyze behaviors, right? So body language, the way you speak, what you say, and because I do a lot of assessments to people, right? But I do it for work, so I wouldn't analyze you in your
about to ask.
I'm not a psychologist, and this is what I really hate about interviewers, because they think that they're psychologists. Most of interviewers think that they're psychologists, and they start over-analyzing themselves, but you know nothing about it, right? Because whatever you're displaying as an emotion, let's say that if you're guilty, you would display certain body languages, right? And if you are scared, that I think that you're guilty, you will display the same ones.
All right.
Right? So they're all the autonomous nervous system, the voluntary muscles, the involuntary muscles. So when it comes to the corporate world, you cannot think that you are a psychologist or someone who's trained to do that. You need to stick to certain guidelines and understand what you're looking for, and what competencies and technical competencies or culture values that you're looking for, and assess that. So yeah, I think people should read a lot about emotional intelligence. People should do some tests. It's all in chapter 1, because that's the basics, right? Understanding yourself and how to link your strength, your passion, and your values to the market or to these organizations, because you're going to thrive if you are able to go and find somewhere where your values and their values align. You're going to thrive there, right? But you need to understand yourself first, right? So there is Strength Finder is one of my favorite. It's by Gallup. It's a test. It's called Strength Finder, and it gives you a theme of everything that you're good at, and it will also tell you how people perceive you, right? So if you are really, really smart in something, or you behave in a certain way, and people could perceive that as arrogance, it will tell you that, hey, watch out for these things, right? And it will give you a theme of talents that you're good at, or that you're good at, or jobs as well that you can thrive in. So these are very good. There's so of course, the DISC is very popular, DISC assessment. There's several things, predictive index.
Do you know 16 personalities test?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I think this is one of the most popular ones as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I only discovered it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I found it and...
Yeah, so I think these are very, very important. But the thing is, it's trash in, trash out, right? So if you're not honest while you're taking these assessments, you're going to find a totally different person as an outcome and a result of the report. So you need to be very, very open. And because no one is going to see it. It's only you. It's a safe environment. If you're happy with understanding yourself, it's so important. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Abdalla, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Very productive,
Thank
very
you.
interesting. A little bit different topics than we usually have. Yeah, we usually go more about fitness and health. However, this is part of the health and especially mental health 100%. As well a lot. And it was a pleasure to have you. Thank you for all the insights. Thanks. And is there any event where, public event you're doing soon where people can see you?
No, I'm going to be traveling with work a lot. Okay. I'm going to be traveling with you for a
we'll
month.
update it eventually.
Yes,
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paolo.